Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start working on our second sheet for assignment number 3. You all are to this point already. Before we move on to the next sheet, as a reminder, these dashed lines, I asked you not to draft those up, right? They were just there for visual reference so that you can get your measuring points. Now, when it comes to these 45-degree lines, these 45-degree lines that you use to get your vanishing points, I'd like you to take a moment to erase them. Go ahead and erase the lines, these diagonal lines, these 45-degree lines. Keep the intersections because we need your vanishing points, but go ahead and erase these lines. The reason being, we're going to create a baseline and they're going to look very similar to these, but I don't want you to get them confused. Okay, so go ahead and erase these lines. I'm showing them in green on my sheet, but if you have them, go ahead and erase them. Okay, once they are erased, we can move on to our second sheet. So I want you to put down a new sheet of trace on top of the one you were just working on. Okay, you're going to have a new sheet of trace. So right now, this is roughly what your sheet should look like. Okay, right now, your bottom sheet should look like this, and then you should have a new one on top. So the bottom sheet should have your rotated roof plan. You should have your picture plane, your vanishing points, left and right, your measuring points, left and right, your ground line, your auxiliary ground line or measuring line, your stationary point, and the 0. So your first sheet, all cleaned up, should look like this. Okay, awesome. Second sheet. Now that you have your second sheet on top, we are going to draft up your baseline. The baseline is going to help us to create our 2-point perspective grid. Okay, I am showing these lines as dashed lines, but that's just so that you can reference them. I wanted to make sure I distinguish them from the green lines I had before, but since you already erased them, it's good. You do not have to draw these as dashed lines. As a matter of fact, I do not want you to draft these as dashed lines. Okay, I do not want you to draft them as dashed lines, but we do need these lines. So these would be solid lines for you. Okay, solid lines for you, going from your vanishing point right, to your 0, not your stationary point, to your 0. That's why I had you erase the other lines, because the other ones went to the stationary point and can get confusing. I want you to go from your vanishing point to your 0, and you can write baseline, so you know that those are your baselines. Vanishing point left to your 0. Again, you can do solid lines. I prefer you do solid lines. I have it in dash, so you know that this is new. This is on our new sheet. Okay. Depending on the type of trace paper you have, if you find it hard to see what you have underneath, you can go ahead and trace your picture plane and your ground line and your auxiliary ground line and your stationary point and all these points using your drafting tools. Okay, using your parallel bar, using your triangles. If you'd like to trace them, you can, if you can't see them very well. Okay. All right, so now we have our baselines from vanishing points to the 0, not the stationary point, to the 0. Okay, next, we are going to create a 2-point perspective grid, and we are going to define the footprint of the building in this 2-point perspective. Okay, in order to do that, we need to go back to the overall dimensions of the structure. We see here on this side it's 24 feet, so we see that on this side it's 24 feet. When we're measuring on our grid, this dimension is on, when we're looking at this side of the building, so left side of the building, so we're going to measure that on the left. This dimension here, it's the same as this side here. It's on the right-hand side of the building, so we're going to measure that on the right. Okay, so from our measuring line where you have your 0, you are going to measure 24 feet, which is this here, 24 feet on the left-hand side of the 0. So take your 1/8 of an inch equals a foot scale, and you're going to go ahead and measure 24 feet and put a little tick mark on your measuring line. Okay, then on the right-hand side, you have 32 feet here, right? That's this distance here. You're going to rotate that. So 32 feet on the right-hand side. You're going to measure 32 feet here. Put a little tick mark. So you have a tick mark at 24 feet here and a tick mark at 32 feet over here. Okay, next, what are we going to do? Well, in order to get the footprint in 3 dimensions, right, we're starting to get this 2-point perspective, you're going to go from measuring line, okay, from measuring line to your measuring point. You're going to draw a line from measuring line to measuring point, from measuring line to measuring point. Then where it intersects the baseline, which you have as a solid, where it intersects the baseline, you're going to pull lines to your vanishing points. So where that line intersects the baseline, you're going to pull it to your vanishing points. Let me show you what I mean. So let's start with the 24 feet that we have to the left of the 0, 24 feet at an 1/8 of an inch scale. I have mine dashed just so that you can see that these are on the new sheet, right? I wanted to distinguish them from our first sheet. So these dashed lines are on our second sheet, okay? Do not draft them up as dashed lines. You are to draft them up as solids. I have them as dashed just to distinguish them from what we did on our first page, okay? So here, 24 feet on the left-hand side. From here, you're going from the measuring line, that tick mark, draft up a line to your measuring point. Okay, you're just connecting those 2 points. It's not in any certain angle. You're just connecting those 2 points. Where that line intersects the baseline, you're going to pull a line to the vanishing point. Okay, so here we're on the left side. We're going to measuring point right, and where it intersects the baseline, we're going to vanishing point right. Then our measurement on the right-hand side, these 32 feet, you're going to go from the measuring line, draft up a line, going to the measuring point. Measuring line to measuring point. No particular angle, you're just connecting those 2 points. Where it intersects the baseline here, you're going to pull a line to your vanishing point left. Okay, so your measurement here on the right-hand side is going to, from measuring line to measuring point left. Where it intersects the baseline, you're going to go to vanishing point left. Okay, and the lines, those lines that went to the vanishing points, those lines that the last ones that you drafted, the ones going to the vanishing points, those are the ones we're going to keep. Those are the ones that are defining the footprint of the building. So it would look like, you would darken that up, looks like this. This is the footprint of the building. Okay, that is the footprint of the building. So you can darken that up a little bit. Next, we are going to continue projecting this roof plan down here below. So we're going to take these dimensions to draft up these lines down here to form part of the 2-point perspective. So again, we're going to take these dimensions to measure that down here. How do we do that exactly? Well, on the left-hand side, we're going to measure 5 feet from the 0. So this is our 0, right? So from here to here, it's 5 feet. And then we have another 2 feet. So we're going to put a tick mark at the 5 foot mark, another tick mark at the 7 foot mark, because 5 plus 2 is 7. And then on the right hand side of our measuring line, we're going to measure 8 feet, put a tick mark, then another 8 feet, so 16 feet, tick mark. And then we're at 12 feet, right? So that's 28 feet. We're going to go ahead and mark that on the right hand side and then do just what we did here to create this. We'll do the same thing, but we're going to do that with the dimensions down here. Okay, so let me go over that with you. Those dimensions I just shared with you, we see them here. Let me zoom in so you can see them a little bit better. Let me focus. Let me straighten this out a little bit. Okay, remember we said on the left-hand side here, we're going to measure 5 feet. So from the 0, 5 feet at 1/8 of an inch scale, plus 2 feet, right there. So 7 feet, because 5 plus 7 is, 5 plus 2 is 7. All right, that's on the left. On the right-hand side, if we were to rotate this back, we're measuring 8 feet. So from the 0, you're measuring 8 feet, and then another 8 feet. So from 0, that's 16, plus another 12 feet, which would be 28 from the 0. For each one of these dimensions, you're going to do the same thing that you did for the 24 foot mark and for the 32 foot mark. You're going to go from the tick mark there on the measuring line, from measuring line to measuring point. Then where it intersects the baseline, you're going to go to your vanishing point. Okay, put 7 foot mark here. From the tick mark here on your measuring line, you're going to your measuring point. Where it intersects the baseline, you're going to pull a line to your vanishing point. Same thing on the opposite side. 8 foot mark here, you're going to measure, or you're going to draft up a line, from your measuring line to your measuring point. Where it intersects the baseline, you're going to go to your vanishing point. Here, measuring line, draft up a line to your measuring point. Where it intersects the baseline, you're going to go ahead and draw a line to your vanishing point. And the last one as well. From your measuring line, you're going to go to your measuring point. Where it intersects the baseline, you're going to pull a line to your vanishing point. And only the lines going to the vanishing points are the ones you're going to keep. Those are the ones you're going to darken up. And if you notice, you're going to start to create this here. Okay, that's what we're doing. That's what you're creating here. Okay, but only keep the lines that are going towards the vanishing points. All right. Let me see if I lift that up a little, just to make sure it's clear. Okay. Once you get to this point, then we can start drafting up the 2-point perspective up here. Okay, so again, we started off with rotating the plan. Now we're projecting the plan, and we're using this 2-point perspective grid to now begin to draft up our 2-point perspective drawing. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and then we'll go ahead and prepare for drafting up the 2-point perspective of the structure.